Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the first guest of the day. I am joined by a security and intelligence expert, Seyi Adetayo, for discussion on emerging threats to Nigeria's democracy. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, sir.
Good evening.
Now, a major issue and a cause for concern for every Nigerian. The 2023 elections have come and gone, but the outcome is still causing ripples in the polity. What do you think is responsible?
Well, it's the beauty of democracy. Democracy is about the right of the people to choose, and also an environment where people can easily hear their grievances. So as long as we're doing this within the ambit of the law, it is permitted. We saw election in the United States. We saw people disputing the outcome of the election in several states. So it is normal when people come up with one form of grievance or the other. But as long as they follow the constitutional process towards seeking redress, then it is allowed, and then we expect that the arbiter, in this case, which is the courts, will now decide on those issues that has been raised.
So at what point does it go outside the law?
Well, the moment you're stepping outside the law, this is when it is outside the law. Well, from the news, the issue of interim national government came up, and we've seen lots of conversations around there, and the issue around it has been made very clear. There's nothing in our constitution that stipulates interim national government. So there is no process for it to even take place. So it is something that cannot stand, or I mean, it has no basis upon which it can stand on. So it definitely cannot exist. And that is what we've seen in the military, talking about that there is no constitutional basis for it. And we saw that the DSS came up with it. That was the first time that, it became so loud and clear. And the truth is that DSS is not known to be frivolous. They must have heard or seen something before and it is good that they actually came out to say, we know some people are planning this, and we are warning that this cannot take place. They did not mention name, they did not mention any group, which is also very good. And I've seen people try to, say, why didn't they mention name? See, it is not every time that you want to call people out. The most important thing is, what do you want to achieve? You see, when a father has two or three children fighting, at times you have to look for a way to mediate and ensure that at the end of the day, because the goal here should be, after May 29, we should have a nation where we can all come together and help to grow our economy, to grow our society, and to help the situation of this country to be better than the way it is. That cannot be done in an environment of, war, fight, and discord. So I told people, we've had several conversations, that mentioning names will aggravate tension. It will now lead to, okay, you mention names, then why don't you arrest them? When you arrest them, it becomes another issue. So right now we need healing as a nation. And the hurt wasn't brought about by this election. There have been issues before this election. Okay. This election aggravated what is on ground. In fact, it was what was on ground that gave birth to the agitations during the election. And so the incoming government needs to now go into all those issues and begin to address them. It's something that has to be done like now, the moment they are sworn in, actions has to be seen. And I believe that when people begin to see actions in that direction, what they have been calling for in the last 8 years, 16 years, they've not seen actions in that direction. And they see any government coming in, because this agitation is about fear of whether this particular set of people that have won the election, will they address what we, a particular section, are asking for. Okay. And if they can see those actions now being put in place, I can tell you it's about interest. It is not actually about, a candidate, or really it's about interest. Will our interest be taken care of.
So for you, it is in the best interest of this country that these names be kept private.
Oh, it is. It is. You see, if I have to give you an example of how some of these things are being done, okay, let's say, for example, now, there's someone of interest. Okay, let me use espionage as an example for you. You know, we have every diplomat is a potential spy, and what they do normally, but they do that under the cover of the legitimacy of their presence in the nation. But unfortunately, in Nigeria, it is our own people that goes to the diplomat to come and give them information because they want them to give them attention or hear. But when you see a diplomat stepping outside this time around and trying to get information from probably somebody they are targeting, the host country, their own intelligence agency, they can do two things. Either they go and arrest the person, or they monitor the person and they let the person see that we are watching you. The moment the person sees that you are watching me, and he will pull back. He tries to do it again. You show him that we are watching every step you are taking. He will withdraw. I can tell you the person will not do it the third time. Right. And that is you trying to do something that you don't want to create diplomatic row between your own country and that country. So the best approach is for you to let them know that we know what you're doing. Instead of allowing the person to do it and arrest the person, then it becomes issue between two countries. I'm giving that example for you to see the objective in the example I've given to you is still the same thing as preventing that action from being from taking place. Do you understand? Without creating issue between your country and the country the person is representing. So if you bring that to what has just happened now, it's about you still achieving the same goal to say, we see what you're doing. We are looking at you and we know you are doing this. So the moment you know that truly we are doing this and they've come out, you will stop doing it because you know that they are watching you. And that will prevent you getting to the second stage. And the second stage will have been, if you don't say it, you want to wait for them to do it and you arrest them. It means that you are going to start getting engaged in issue of arrest, then whatever is going to follow the arrest, the uproar, we are being targeted and stuff like that, and that will not help, not at this critical point.
All right, so before we started this interview, we watched a report where the military described a call for interim government as illegal and unconstitutional. So for you, how would you react to the call for interim government in the country, even when the election has been conducted and a winner has been declared? I know you talked about agitation, fear, but people have said there are better ways, constitutional ways to go about this.
Okay, so the only information we have is the one from the DSS that says there is a plan. No names was mentioned. We've not seen any of the critical actors actually tweeting or saying something publicly. So which means that whatever must have been done in that direction must have been clandestinely done. It has not come to the surface yet. And we see a government agency coming out to say, we know. So that means they are taking an action to prevent it from coming up and say, we're going to kill it at this point. So let us take it as if it never happened. And it is not surfacing because no one has really come out, apart from some tweets from young people or ordinary people you see that are disgruntled asking, but not people that are really consequential in the last election. In terms
Why
of,
do you call them inconsequential?
You know, we have political parties, we have the main actor. Anybody can be in there. In fact, some of the things that you read online, some of them at times are being tweeted by underage children. Some of them are people that does not even have PVCs, that know that will write things. So and you see some from accounts that are not even traceable. So you cannot say this is a particular person that you can actually hold responsible for certain things. So in this regard, you can only hold people responsible for what they do. And for people that are faceless, you cannot actually hold them because they are actually faceless. So what I'm saying in essence is that there have not been anything in the open to suggest that has happened.
But some Nigerians went to the defense headquarters to call on the military to intervene. So Why do you think anyone will ask for military intervention at this time?
Well, people are hungry. For those who went there, they were protesting. I actually didn't watch that, so I'm not going to be able to speak on that. But as far as I'm concerned on this, we should just assume that it's never, it has not, it's something that has not come to the light yet. It was a warning, because I read the text of the DSS, and the DSS, the statement from the DSS was very clear. They were clandestine moves and plans, which means that these are plans that have not. The groups involved were not mentioned. Individuals involved were not mentioned. And I know for a fact that DSS is not a frivolous organization, so they must have seen something for them to must have spoken about it. And that since then, I don't think there's anything so strong in that direction again until the comment from the Nigerian Armed Forces. So I don't think there's something that we should worry ourselves on as a nation right now.
All right, so as a security expert, let me ask you, is there any penalty for anyone calling for interim government?
Well, I think that should be for a lawyer to speak on. When something is not constitutional, it is not constitutional. And those that are in the legal field will be able to interpret what the Constitution says around that direction. But as it is, I would just say, for us to be able to move on as a country right now, we should be looking forward more to healing, not to aggravate the situation in the country. If people are angry, if people are making complaints, let's try as much as possible to direct them towards or guide them towards the right path, and then let them also heed and follow that path. And then let us also look at how do we, at the end of this, see how we can bring everybody together, because that is the most important thing. We've seen product of election. Even America are still finding it difficult to heal from the last election. There's still sharp division in the United States. And I believe that the government will have done better, Biden government will have done better if there have been enough cohesion among the American people in terms of supporting its government. They will have done better. And that is a path that we can't afford to go as a nation going forward from May 29. We must be able to bring everybody on board. I was in Lagos Island a few days ago, the day the Balogun Markets fire incident on one particular building. I was there when the fire started. I went there to pick up something. And the feelers from the people there, the way I saw, what I heard people say in spite of what I saw on ground. And I can give an example. I saw the fire service trying to pass their water hose through the building to the topmost floor. At the same time, I saw the traders trying to remove their waste from the same building to save whatever they can save. So they got stuck at a point where the fire service wanted to enter, and those who are moving their goods wanted to go out. And, that quagmire led to the fire spreading. And people were angry because the fire was spreading, and the next building were afraid that the fire could get to their own building. They're also trying to move their waste. And I saw the way, some young Nigerians were speaking. And it occurred to me, we've got a lot of work to do. We need to reinvigorate an organization like National Orientation Agency right now, to now start helping in the rebuilding of this nation. I remember growing up, I remember MAMSA, I remember, Better Life for Rural Women, I remember all those mass, mass mobilization program, the popular participation, those campaigns, those things that we will be singing, those songs we'll be singing it as, young school children, and, helping to inculcate patriotism in us, good morals in us. Those things are no longer there. We have left the young people to social media like Twitter and Facebook, and they pick up all the negative things they can pick up there, and those things are not leading them into patriotism. They are not leading them into, a good citizen in terms of it's isolating them from nationhood. We need to rebuild that. And that is the direction we need to begin to start looking at right now. How do we heal the land?
We'll get there. So you strongly believe that arresting these agitators will heat up the polity?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
You strongly believe, you strongly said, or you strongly believe that arresting these agitators will heat up the polity?
What I'm trying to say is that we don't know more than the intelligence community. They came out from the abundance of information at their disposal, and they have the best of knowledge in terms of how to address issues. If from what they have at their disposal, and that is what they are able to come out with, it means that that is the best decision for us as a nation at that particular point in time. This is an organization that I came out from, and I understand how the organization works. They don't just do things because they just want to do it. They do it because that is the best thing for the nation. And trust me, you might think that they know much more than what we think that they know. So to me, I believe that whatever they do must have been sanctioned by the government in which they represent, and as the direction that the government wants to follow. And I think that is the best for the nation as it is now.
All right, so apart from these post-election disagreements, what other things do you consider a security threat to Nigeria's democracy?
The issue, if you listen to the defense spokesperson, he highlighted reasons why we're seeing resurgence. As said today, there are killings in Benue. We saw abduction of 10 children, school children in Kaduna. So we start seeing uptick in insecurity, and it's attributing it to the return of cash flow. And cash flow is actually important, because if the cash flow is not returned, there will be some other forms of criminality that will also resurface. So we know that this is like an oxygen to kidnapping and banditry. So which means that the incoming government needs to have a path that is different from the current path. And I know on this station, I've highlighted that several times, that we need to follow a different direction. We've been following a direction. We've seen how far this direction can take us. Kudos to the military. We can see that they've reduced activities of ISWAP and the Boko Haram in the northeast a lot. We've seen them reducing activities of bandits in the northwest and north central. But if you look at the history of this group, including Boko Haram in those days, when we think that we've succeeded in decapitating them, they only come back stronger, because that period of hibernating is period for them to now take the money at their disposal to recruit more people, get more ammunition, plan and study our military formation, and then strike, reduce their capacity, and start spreading again. For us not to go back to square one, we need to do the needful. And the needful has always been, with our current structure, the strength and operational model that we're running now, we cannot clear this forest. If we don't clear those forests, we will continue to have this. It's like a Yoruba adage that says that Tinoba Tonlasho Ejoni Tonle, which means that as long as you have lies, in your clothes, you will continue to have blood on your fingertips, on nails. So I've reiterated that we need to go on mass recruitment for this particular purpose. There are going to be issues around how do we finance, how do we take care of this. For want of time, I won't be able to go into detail, but I've done that here. But it is very, very important that we do this. And that will help us to be able to have enough boots on the ground. And the reason why our current military structure is not adequate is because there's virtually no part in the country that we are not running one form of military operations or the other, because of other security threats in other parts of the country. So, but for this particular purpose, we need actually to have enough boots on the ground, divide the whole territory into quadrants, start clearing, develop a military operational plan that will clear to the point that we choke them to a center and we clear them off. Clear the entire forest to ensure that we don't leave any camp in existence. And then where it is being cleared, police structure is being put in place to hold the ground. As the military are clearing, they are putting up, which means that we also still need to reinvigorate the police in two ways. One, that it's important for us to increase the numbers of current police strength, because the UN standard is 1 to 250 civilian. Even if you cannot do 250 civilian, let's do 1 to 750 civilian. We still don't have that yet. The second is that the bad eggs, there are quite a lot. When I mean a lot, that doesn't say the percentage is a lot. Now, they may not be more than, say, 20%, but that is still a lot. Talking about the strength of the Nigerian police, we need to weed them out. Boko Haram came about because of bad policemen. Remember, Mohammed Yusuf was created by bad indiscretion of some policemen. Two, NSAS came about by indiscretion on some policemen. Yesterday, something happened in Delta State. We saw the protest. I think, is it today again or so? We've seen this happening, and we've seen effort by this current IGP. I think I used to say IGP Arase is the best IGP we've ever had. I think I'm giving the best medal now to this current IGP, and I'm also happy that Arase, is now back to Police Service Commission. So we have two good guys, working together right now. This man has done a lot to help to sanitize the police, but we need more in that direction, and we need to deal with up to those categories of police officers. With just about last week, one of them tried to set me up. I was driving, a truck was in my front, we were stopping for a red light, we want to stop. Then a female police officer came and asked us to go. So the truck drove, I followed the truck. The next thing, the policeman was standing up and he stopped me. And I said, why did you stop? He said, I jumped. I said, no. I said, your colleague, that female officer, asked us to go because there was traffic on the other side. Right. He said no. And I told him that it seems that this is a setup. You are trying to set people up because they have been complaining. And this is at the Sherry. When you are beggar, you follow that under the bridge, beggar, you are trying to navigate into the expressway. It is common to police officers there. They set, and immediately the guy assaulted me. I had to call, police public relations office to say this is what happened. We have a lot of them that are messing up the good ones. They have to go before they create another problem.
All right. Thank you very much for that robust submission. Now, conflict triggered by political competition poses threats to democracy. So what do you think Nigeria should do at this time?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
Conflict triggered by political competition poses threats to our democracy. What do you think Nigeria should do at this time?
Well, we're growing in our democracy. I think 1999 to date is about 24 years, if I'm correct. And the model, we are modeling the United States and some other democratic countries like United Kingdom, and they've been practicing this for a long time. And I believe that we're evolving gradually. If you look at our political evolution in terms of how, elections from 1999 till date, we compare to what we had in the days of UPA and MPN is entirely different. The level of violence in those days is not the same as we have in there. I remember as a young boy in a commercial bus with my mom at Idiaraba, we ran into people with cutlass attacking themselves in the days of Adetayo success. And, I saw the way my mom was screaming. As a young, I can't forget what I saw, and I can't imagine us experiencing that again. So it means that even though we are not there yet, we've seen, skirmishes, crisis here and there. But I can tell you it is not like what we've seen in the past. And I believe that if we continue to sustain what we have right now, we've seen the majority played by our electoral umpire. We've seen the majority played by Mr. President, and he has shown enough maturity in terms of trying to say, I am neutral in the process. And we're seeing the kind of communication coming out from the presidency. And I think if we're able to sustain this momentum, we will get to a level where we will now be the model of democracy.
So how do we sustain this growth and maturity?
It's how the political actors, they respond to grievances, respond to disputes, how they carry themselves during the electoral processes, and how we, issues that are being brought up during the electioneering campaign. We can see that it's a lot different from before. We've seen more political awareness among young people right now. We've seen young people raising agenda right now for their own candidates. We've seen candidates, profile now being dug out. We've seen candidates now being challenged to say, come, this is what you said 10 years ago. This is what you're saying now. Are you saying you no longer believe in what you said 10 years ago? What has changed? If something has changed, tell us what has changed. Tell us why you are holding. So the political, because I remember when I was young, we had this Justice Development and Peace Commission when they were running. This was during the military era. Okay. They were trying to help, to bring programs where people become politically aware, we get involved in politics, get involved, you call it popular participation at that time. I don't think that we need such anymore. Okay. Young people are now politically aware. Absolutely. And they are even the one, telling their parents now who profiles of candidates. I remember during, MKO June 12 election, I had to listen to my parents to know more about the candidates. Okay. But now, they are the ones telling the parents about the candidates.
Mr. Adetayo, we're gradually running out of time. So, the May 29 presidential inauguration is less than 2 months away. What guarantee has Nigeria that it will go as planned?
We've seen worse things than this in the past. Oh. We've been able to weather it. Nigerians are fantastic people. We may be angry over one or two issues, but I can tell you that we love this country more than people think that we do. And I'm very sure that nobody will do anything that will turn this country upside down. They have their rights, and they are making good use of their rights to express their grievance. And I'm so sure that nobody will go outside the constitutional mandates to do anything. So I don't have any fear whatsoever.
So finally, before I let you go, insecurity remains a big threat to peace in our country. How should the president-elect approach solving this problem?
From day one, I've highlighted two major things. One, we need more people on ground to clear those forests. As long as those forests create habitation for those people, they will continue to be there. Two, we've seen how police indiscretions of some policemen led to major crises that we've experienced in this country. There's need to purge the Nigerian police and also increase their size. You can see two things here. Purge, remove the bad ones, add more people to fill that space, and also increase their numbers to ensure that they have enough to cater for the size of the population. Because that is also a major issue. Policing is inadequate right now because they are inadequate in numbers.
All right, I've been discussing emerging threats to Nigeria's democracy with a security and intelligence expert, Mr. Seyi Adetayo. Thank you very much for your expert opinion on our discussion tonight. And I must thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight.